achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
Welcome, everybody, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com, Monday, July 9th, 2018. We're here, we're live, we're doing it, we're having a great time, and we're so thrilled tonight because we've got a wonderful guest to join Dr. Dean here for our first hour, and I do want to say that we're going to have the Health Ranger. Of course, he really doesn't need much of an introduction, Mike Adams. But I also want to say, Mike, if you're listening, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad so I know which hand is yours and I can bring you on to the air. Thank you very much. So listen, you guys, everybody knows and loves Dr. Carolyn Dean, and we know how extraordinary she is out there on the leading edge of creation, doing so much for so many people. She's been part of the health freedom movement. Lord, she practically is the health freedom movement. Taking a stand for supplements, for nutrition, for natural health, for consumers, for their advocacy, writing Death by Modern Medicine 12 years ago before anybody even really thought about androgenetic death. So many things she's done. And here also this evening, we're so happy to have Mike Adams with us. Mike, the Health Ranger, as we know, is such an outspoken consumer health advocate. He is an award-winning investigative journalist. He is an internet activist, and he is also the director of a science lab as well. He is the founder and editor of Natural News, which most of us know and rely on, the internet's most trafficked natural health news website, and great content there, of course, including the information that Dr. Dean has presented. And he has also got all kinds of other things. He's got counterthink.com, he's got foodinvestigators.com, healingfoodreference.com, so many good publications and websites devoted to covering natural health topics. And, between his relationship with Dr. Dean, his relationship already existing with our audience, which is massive far and wide around the world in such a short window of time. Who knows what we'll get into tonight, but we know it's going to be great. And again, we're so excited to have him here with us this evening. Carolyn, want to say hello to you. You're there? Yes, yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent. And so again, everybody, welcome, and we'll bring in our very good friend, the Health Ranger. Hello, good evening.
Hello there. Thanks for having me on. It's great to join you.
Thank you, Mike. This is Carolyn. Yes, I think I can add to that incredible introduction of you, Mike. Mike and I met during the Health Freedom movement at Health Freedom conferences, I think mostly. I got involved, 2004, 2005, went to some Codex Alimentarius meetings where the World Trade Organization, World Health Organization were trying to regulate foods and dietary supplements. And as you know, Mike, what they were trying to do is allow as much contamination as they could possibly allow into food that was going to be crossing borders, and to make sure that supplements were synthetic and of such low potency that they would not interfere with drugs. Is that a pretty good assessment of what Codex was doing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very insightful. You're right on the money. The push has always been to favor big pharma's prescription medications and essentially wipe out not just natural alternatives based on nutrition, but also to wipe out the knowledge of how to use them. So, we see that through FTC and FDA regulation of free speech. And now, of course, YouTube, Google, and Facebook banning discussions of natural health, that's a whole new level of tyranny that we're just running into right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, and it's folks like yourself that, as Ginny said in the introduction, you're outspoken enough and strong enough to be a spokesperson for people. Some people don't realize how bad it really is, maybe until it hits them personally. But you know what I was wondering, Mike, with President Trump cutting back on all these trade agreements that were written and signed through the previous administrations, have they stopped this codex push, which if it's still going on, supposedly the U.S. has to pay massive fines if they're trying to ship products to other countries, supplement products that are above the stated levels that Codex wants. Has Trump stopped that?
His overall stance is, of course, against globalization and pulling out of these cross-border agreements. But as far as shipping supplements to other countries, the EU continues to be very punitive to supplement companies. You can't ship high-dose vitamin C or many other nutrients into places like Germany without it being seized or just, outright banned and then seized and destroyed in some cases. So that's still out there. The European Union, though, with the Brexit vote, the European Union is really headed toward some level of disintegration, which would cause individual nations to take back their own regulations on natural health and supplements. And I think the overall trend globally is a trend toward preventing disease, supporting nutrition and health, and avoiding pharmaceuticals except as a last resort. I know there are, over 100 million people on pharma drugs in the U.S. right now, but I think that the upcoming generation is a lot more skeptical about those drugs than many of the senior citizens who are currently taking them. So we're going to see some big changes in the years ahead.
Well, I would hope so, but it's interesting, Mike, when I look at the millennials, and my husband Bob has a radio show called What Youth? And when we talk to young people in their early 20s, the folks that talk to us may be enlightened somewhat, but they talk about all their friends being on Adderall, growing up on ADHD meds, and bouncing between meds and vape pipes and drugs. So I don't know. To me, I think kids have been brainwashed with drugs from birth. So I
think you're right about that.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that point, and part of that may be the cannabis legalization efforts, which, I've supported the medicinal use of cannabis, but not just the open recreational use everywhere like Colorado. And I think some of that's probably bleeding over into this idea that, well, hey, the government of Colorado says it's okay to be high all the time, it's okay to be medicated all the time, it's okay to just take drugs, smoke that, snort this, and so on. I think that attitude is very present in some people. But at the same time, I see a lot of skepticism about the profit motives of drug companies. And I think, a lot of the millennials are very skeptical about profit motives of, let's say, big oil or big agriculture or, the Monsantos of the world or Bayer, Syngenta, and so on. So hopefully that skepticism will accelerate and people will question why they're being spoon-fed so many dangerous chemicals.
Right. Good point. And the way the Internet does throw this information out on a daily basis. Today's headline, President Trump slams Pfizer drug price increases. During the year when Trump is demanding the drug companies cut back on prices, there have been 2 price increases by Pfizer. So you can't help but notice those headlines. So, yes, we're getting the information fast and furious.
And that's an interesting battle that you just pointed out there. One of Trump's platforms upon which he ran for office was tackling the drug price monopolies. And, of course, drug prices are enforced by the monopoly of the FDA, in essence, which is an agency that answers to no one. It's an agency that doesn't even answer to Congress, even though Congress created it. Congress doesn't have day-to-day oversight of the FDA unless they assert it through a new law, which they're not willing to do because the pharmaceutical lobby has so much influence over Congress. So even if Trump wants to do something, right now his hands are tied on this because Congress is owned by the pharmaceutical industry. And there's one suggestion along this line that could be very effective, and that would be if Trump issued an executive order demanding the FDA ban direct-to-consumer drug advertising, as it used to be banned before 1997. As you know, that consumer advertising is legal in the United States, but almost nowhere else in the world. And that is funding the media, and it's funding Congress, and it's funding all these interests that are covering up for Big Pharma. So if he could ban that form of advertising, it would be a game changer.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get on that, right, Mike?
Yeah, I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, oh man. I had this very, very politically incorrect thought when I started looking at your resume and thinking how much of a multitasker you are. I was thinking, man, Mike must have a whole office for all this work. What do you Am I right?
That's politically incorrect to assign that to me. No, not really. We're an organization that's pretty spread out. We have people at different offices, all over the world, and I haven't thought about the gender ratio for a long time. I suppose it's a mix, but we just look for the most capable people, no matter where they are in the world, or no matter what they look like or talk like or anything.
It's okay. Yeah. It's okay, Mike. I just wanted to get sort of have a little fun with you too, because I know you're a very serious guy, but you have fun too. You put out neat songs and parodies, and I know you are enjoying yourself at the same time as you're seriously tackling some very, very crucial issues. So I really applaud you for that. And tell us, how many people come to your website? Tell us the scope that you have with your audience.
Well, first of all, so much has changed since we last talked. We have launched literally hundreds of different websites. We now publish medicine.news, health.news, food.news, science.news, and over 300 other websites. Many microsites, for example, turmeric.news or vitamin D.news, which is just about vitamin D and its therapeutic effects. We have a team now that scours about 1,300 academic journals looking for published studies on natural medicine, nutrients, mind-body medicine, and other similar issues. And you'll see a lot of those published at science.news, as well as medicine.news and other websites. So these days, it's not just naturalnews.com, where we have millions a month. Now it's kind of spread out across all these other websites as well. And if you put it all together, it's probably approaching 20 million independent visitors a month across all these websites. And then we've just launched, in beta mode, we've just launched Real.video, which is a YouTube alternative that is friendly to natural medicine and health freedom. And it's not fully launched yet, but we've got people signing up who are going to talk about health freedom. And by the end of the year, we'll probably have about 10 or 20,000 channels there. It's just like YouTube, but without the censorship. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. Now I'm going to turn over to Ginny because she wanted to get some specifics on food and food safety and what you're doing there. So, Ginny,
sure thing.
Take over. Yeah.
You take over. Well, Mike, one of the things I was just Googling, I did not know, so I'm so glad you're on tonight because we have such a large audience around the world, and I did not know, and perhaps they did not know, about science.news. And I just Googled it myself and looked at it, and it's really amazing and comprehensive how much information you have on here. What do you think, and we were thinking about, kind of talking about nutrition, food toxicity, consumer advocacy. What do you think, if you had to break down, say, like the three most pressing issues in that world of food and food education advocacy, do you think you would want to make sure every person listening to this show tonight knew about and knew how to respond to?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to mention something along those lines. There is something that's been on my mind quite a lot. I run a mass spec science lab, and we do analysis of foods for organic molecules such as pesticides, as well as toxic elements like lead. And so, we've got a pretty big operation looking at food. And the number one thing that people need to know is that concentrations matter. When it comes to toxicity, concentrations matter. I've seen a lot of reports out there floating around the internet or YouTube where they say, well, this food tested positive for arsenic, let's say, which is you could call it a heavy metal. It's a toxic element. They say it tested positive for arsenic, therefore it's bad. I saw articles about California wine saying, oh, they test positive for arsenic. Well, testing positive for an element is meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. If I tested your hair, your blood, your saliva right now, all that would test positive for arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, nickel, copper, everything you can think of, because there's at least one molecule that contains that element in your blood for sure. And I think it's important for consumers to know that concentrations matter, where if you have, let's say, parts per billion of arsenic, let's say it's 5 parts per billion of arsenic in California wine, is that dangerous? No, absolutely not. But what about 5 parts per million? Oh, that's 1,000 times higher. That is dangerous. And so concentrations matter. This is so crucial for people to understand because, not everybody works in a lab. Not everybody sees the difference between parts per billion, parts per million, parts per trillion, and so on. But you can be misled by the media if you're not really paying attention to the units. So there you go.
Very good. Excellent. And when you look at, so give me another, how should people, what do you think about this whole thing about testing anyway? How should people demand to know more or verify testing, especially let's talk for a minute about supplements. I know the rigorous testing that we have to go through in order to present our products to the public. How do you kind of assess that, even for your own personal choices? And what do you think are big triggers or buttons for you?
Sure. Well, first you have identity testing to make sure that what's in the supplement, that's what's claimed on the label, is actually there. But that's a pretty easy test. You could do that with simple instruments, very, very quick and inexpensive. But beyond that, then, what we do, for example, is microbiology, pesticide analysis, and heavy metals analysis. And microbiology is really important for certain root vegetables, such as turmeric powder. Because turmeric is grown in soil, it can often have very, very high microbiology counts. And recently we found what was it? Oh yeah, it was a pumpkin seed protein powder that tested positive for E. coli and also very high for the total plate count of microbiology. And some of this is happening because they're sitting in warehouses that are not air conditioned, and so the microbiology is multiplying because, of course, microbes self-replicate, unlike heavy metals, which don't replicate, and pesticides don't replicate, but microbes do. So you can start with X number of microbes, and then you can end up with 2X or 4X or 8X, as time goes on, and that's why microbiology is very important. Then in terms of pesticide and herbicide analysis, that also comes down to a concentration number. There's a limit that is assigned by the European Union. There's a different limit in Canada. There's a limit by the FDA. And even the USDA has published guidelines. But all these numbers, sometimes they differ based on the different type of food. Even if you're an expert in this area, you can't keep track of it all. And another thing that we learned in the lab is that when you're extracting pesticides from food samples, the extraction efficiency is usually very low. You might only get 50% of the pesticides out of the food and into the instrument. So it might test low, but it might be double that in reality. But you can't tell because you can't get it out of the food. You have to use stronger solvents and things like that. And then finally, heavy metals analysis. That's very straightforward. That's done via ICP-MS, which is very precise, and it's within a few parts per billion accuracy typically. So heavy metals analysis, very accurate. Pesticide analysis is very wishy-washy. Microbiology analysis, usually a pass-fail. And identity analysis is also usually a pass-fail. And if you're a consumer, it's a good idea to try to investigate, wherever you're getting your materials from and try to get, honest stuff.
You mentioned pesticides and things. I mean, one thing that we're really aware of, and I think you are too, is this whole issue with glyphosate. And what do you, I know that there's even been correlations between, this is the ingredient in Roundup, right? That is
yes.
Now in the water table. It's everywhere. It's eating people's stomachs up, and it's causing all kinds of problems, health problems with farmers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Glyphosate is, as you said, it's the main ingredient in Roundup, but there are other ingredients in there that are also known to have very toxic profiles. And from a scientific point of view, glyphosate doesn't always remain fully intact. There are byproducts of glyphosate. There is glufosinate. There is AMPA. There's complex glyphosate, which is glyphosate bound with other molecules. If you're actually testing in the lab for glyphosate, you have to test for 4 different molecules at the same time. And the reason that's important is because when you eat foods that contain this glyphosate, it can attack you biochemically from 4 different vectors. It's not just the one molecule. And the thing about glyphosate itself that's very insidious is, in terms of molecular biology, it's a very small molecule. It has a mass of, I think, 169 point something. It's very small on atomic mass units, and so, molecular mass. So it moves through everything very easily. It moves out of food and into your blood. It moves through intestinal walls. It moves through nerve tissue and muscle tissue. It moves into breast milk, and that's why they've detected glyphosate in breast milk. And it comes out in your urine intact, which also tells you that glyphosate is not destroyed by cooking the food. It's not destroyed by the harvesting and processing. It survives intact, and it courses through your blood, through your veins, penetrates cell walls, and goes into all the tissues of your body. And that's one reason it's such an insidious and dangerous molecule. And our food is saturated with it, as you know.
Yeah. And I guess the FDA and the EPA and everybody's all kind of in bed together, and we're just kind of left holding the bag. So what are your recommendations? How do you encourage people to protect themselves?
Well, primarily the simplest thing you can do is buy certified organic. Now, there's a caveat with that, which is USDA certified organic. If it's grown in the United States or Canada or Europe, I trust it. If it's grown in China, I don't trust it. I happen to know, even though I haven't been able to report this fully yet, but I know that there is enormous organic fraud across China. And as a result, there are a lot of certified organic products coming out of China, which actually, when you test them, they contain shocking amounts of pesticides and herbicides and heavy metals. And the USDA organic program does not even have a limit on heavy metals for certified organic either. So if an organic crop is being grown in a dirty environment, it can be certified organic and still contain high amounts of lead. That's why even when you buy organic, it's not enough. You need to know the country of origin. So USA, again, is clean. I've tested rice from Texas and California, all super clean, whereas rice out of China, incredibly dirty, because they have no environmental enforcement. Pollution is rampant, and they irrigate water crops such as rice using contaminated river water, which is a dumping ground for industrial waste in China. So you got to think about not just what you're spraying on crops, but also what's in the water that you're irrigating crops with. That determines a lot about what ends up in the final food.
Right, absolutely. How do you?
Am I getting too geeky on you here, or what? Am I getting too geeky?
No. This is the kind of stuff we talk about every Monday. Dr. Dean is very technical, and our audience is well equipped, and our audience is really well read. You know, they have a lot of questions themselves, and I just want to invite you to post your questions on the chat line, or also through the InQuick messaging system if you have a question tonight, and I will read it on the air. And a lot of our people are typing in and saying hello from Nanu's Bay on Vancouver Island to you. So they're
great.
Welcoming you to the show this evening. When you think about where you are, well, first of all, let me just ask you this. How do you keep a positive attitude with all this stuff slinging through your brain all day? I mean, that is challenging. I know how we keep a positive attitude because we are in the, proactive and preventative cause of, providing high-quality nutritional supplements and protocols that actually allow people to recover. But, how do you keep your upbeatness and your encouragement when you're thinking about all the corruption and the challenges that you're seeing out there?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something I've spent a lot of time pondering, and it comes down to a personal philosophy, actually, which is that even in a world that, as I've said before, I don't mean to sound extreme, but a world that's committing suicide through food poisoning and pesticide poisoning and all these other things, you still have the choice to live a healthy life. So there's a personal freedom aspect to it. And if you choose, you can buy organic. You can avail yourself of nutritional supplements. You can prevent disease. You can practice mind-body medicine. You can do all these things. You can spend time in nature. You can get sunlight, vitamin D, all these things. So you don't have to go down with the ship, so to speak. But I don't have a positive outlook on society at large. I think that we're going through a very difficult self-destruction phase in the history of human civilization, and it's only from pain that humanity ever learns big lessons, and there's a very painful lesson coming, which is that you can't poison your people, your planet, and your food, and then expect to have a healthy, abundant population that's fully sane. So that's my take on it. I mean, it's very honest, and that's how I stay positive, because I have a choice. But I don't think the world's going to in the right place right now.
Right. We often say the sky may fall, but it doesn't have to fall on you. It is your choice. But here's something, Mike. We're talking about testing for all the bad things, and I've often said to people, well, you can get a head of lettuce and you have no idea what's in there. There's no product label for telling you how much magnesium, calcium, iron, etc. is in your foods. Is that something that you might be doing in the future, is testing foods for nutrients? Let me just say this. I know that 100 years ago the USDA was testing for 500 milligrams of magnesium in the average diet back then, and now we're lucky to get 200 milligrams. And that's one of the things I ride on to tell people they really need their magnesium. So who is doing the testing of the food supply?
Well, you bring up a great point. You would think that the FDA or the USDA would do this and publicly share the results, but of course they don't. This has crossed my mind before. It would be easy to do a nutritive elements analysis, including magnesium, aluminum, zinc, selenium, and the toxic heavy metals as well. That would be straightforward. But I wrote a whole book on this. We published about 800 results that we ran. The book's called Food Forensics, by the way, if anyone's curious. But what happens is that these things are seasonal, and they change from country to country, soil to soil, even one plant to another. So you can take a snapshot, and then the very next month that might not be true. And we found that a lot of the published numbers that talk about, hey, green beans have this in it, and then we run green beans, and they don't have that in it. So, I mean, you see the conundrum. It's a moving target.
Moving target, yes. So, yeah, we just tell people, well, eat as healthfully as you can, and even organics, if the farmer isn't putting minerals back in the soil. We've had people coming to us on their 40 ounces of green drink a day, vegans, vegetarians, and they still have heart palpitations and leg cramps, which identifies magnesium deficiency.
Yeah.
And they're shocked because they think they're getting it. And, I often say, gosh, that ship has sailed. You really have to grow your own food, amend it with rock dust, put the worms in, put the good bacteria in your soil before you really know that you're getting all you can from your food.
There's a really great discussion that I've had with people about this. I'll share it with your audience about magnesium and minerals versus other nutrients. Vitamin C, for example, as you know, is synthesized by plants. And vitamin C contains nothing but carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's it. It's just a special arrangement. It's a molecule that's made by the plant by pulling carbon out of the air, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen and oxygen from water. That's it. It makes vitamin C. Plants can make vitamin C, and they can make all these other nutrients, organic molecules. No plant can make magnesium. No plant can make zinc or copper or nickel, because elements cannot be created or destroyed outside of, nuclear explosions and collapsing stars and such. So you can grow the most beautiful sunflower sprouts in the world, and they can be mineral deficient. And so getting the minerals into the food has to be done, as you said, through rock dust or applying seawater to your sprouting machine, for example. The minerals have to get in there. And if you're not putting minerals into the soil, then plants grown generation after generation are mining the minerals out of the soil and leaving the soil mineral depleted. And then, of course, fertilizer puts back in a few basic minerals, potassium and so on, just to make sure the plant doesn't, keel over and die. But they're not putting back in, as you know, the magnesium and the other things. So minerals cannot be created and destroyed, but nutrients can. And that's a key difference that people need to understand.
Yeah, very good, very good. Jenny, do we have chat questions for Mike?
Yes, we do. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Wonderful. Okay, yeah, Mike, we've got some people writing into you, so let's ask these questions. One of them I thought was really good, and I've heard this before, it was related to a lot of things. This is from Debbie. She says, I'm just wondering, after researching quote-unquote free-range chicken farms and finding out that they're a fraud, that they're just situated close to a non-free-range chicken farm by the same company, and the only difference is that, there's a window in between or something like that. Should we trust a traditional company with an organic certification saying that they're providing an organic or a free-range product or whatever? Would you trust that if they're side-by-side that way?
Well, the term free range has very, very limited regulatory oversight. It's almost zero, whereas organic has a very, very assertive oversight by the USDA. So someone who's claiming organic but is not organic will be found out as a fraud very quickly. But someone who's claiming to be free range but isn't free range can probably continue that practice indefinitely. Free range is like a lot of these terms, such as all natural or raw. Raw is not regulated by the FDA, believe it or not. Anyone can claim their food is raw, even if it's cooked. So, the consumer needs to be aware of what is regulated and what isn't. Also, on organic certification, keep in mind that organic does not certify the outcome of a crop. It only certifies the inputs. So it certifies that you're not spraying it with certain synthetic chemical pesticides and so on, but it does not certify, nor does it even test the outcome of the product. And this is how, if there's irrigation water that's contaminated, then a certified organic crop can end up carrying pesticides, even though pesticides were not added to the crop. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense. And it also, one of the things that we try to explain, too, is the same thing about mineral content and also nutrient density. Just because it's organic doesn't necessarily mean it's nutrient dense, and it certainly doesn't mean it's mineral rich. So, like you said,
That's right.
There's a certain level with the in response, specifically the glyphosate, certified organic, but these other things, dynamics, you still have to manage. And that's where supplementation does come in, especially, the quality that Dr. Dean has. Okay, here's another comment. First of all, Shane typed in and said, I was very upset with Google's handling of your YouTube channel. Now, can you tell our audience a little bit about what that was about, Mike?
Sure. My entire channel on YouTube continues to be permanently banned. Over 1,000 videos, over 10 years of video content. I don't know how many followers, 350,000 plus. But, the good news is that, again, we have a choice, and I decided to build our own platform, Real.video, and to invite others to be on that platform. And it was the second time that YouTube banned me that I decided to commit the money for that project. So, there's a silver lining to everything. If YouTube doesn't want the public to have access to information about nutrition, and by the way, they banned me, the last time they banned me was after we posted a video about CBD oil treating a woman's stage 4 cancer. And that set them off. They were like, oh, you can't talk about natural products and cancer. That's just banned. I mean, we weren't even promoting anything. We were just reporting this case that was documented. So, we're building our own platforms. And there are going to be two internets, essentially. There's one internet, the popular Google, YouTube, Facebook internet, where people are oblivious and medicated and dumbed down. And then there's going to be another internet, websites like the ones I've talked about, and shows like your show and others that are about enlightening people and helping people get healthy and informed. And there'll be no remaining, middle class in this, not economically, but I mean in terms of knowledge. There's going to be the extreme illiterate on one side and then the well-informed on the other side. That's what it's shaping up to be.
And with the thing with the Google and your YouTube channel and all that business, and now you're building, and tell me again the name of, you said is it in beta? Have you launched it? You're ready to launch? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's in beta right now. You can see it at real.video. So it's not a .com, it's just a .video. Yeah, real.video. You can see my message there. And you can also see some of the videos there that are being produced, but better yet, go to beta.real.video, and you can see videos that people are already uploading. And it's a hodgepodge. It's everything. It's, there's religion, there's health, there's politics, there's culture, there's art, travel. It's across the board. So it's kind of a free speech bazaar. So just be prepared. I mean, someone's got like a UFO channel on there. But, that's what free speech looks like, is a lot of different ideas.
Right. And that, and by the way, that's what YouTube and everything else looks like, except like you said, when you've been censored. And for that. So I don't think our folks have very open minds, and they're afraid of any of that. I just wanted to make sure we got it in the record so that we could, present your information, allow people to get on board with what you're doing, because I think it's wonderful and fascinating. And, every little bit of contrast does have a silver lining, especially if you're a powerful creator like yourself, taking a stand in the world and saying, hey, I can make lemonade out of these lemons.
And better yet, if you don't mind me mentioning this, we've got a pretty large editorial staff, and we're looking for videos that people upload that we want to write about. So we're choosing and writing about videos. If someone's got a video that's very interesting about natural medicine, we would editorially write about it and publish that across our other websites. So we've actually got a whole editorial team that will be working in conjunction with this, and it's free to use. Everything's free. It's just, we bring that editorial and publicity coverage to the videos that we think are important for people to see.
No, that's awesome. That's really great. Yeah. Carolyn?
No, I'm good. I'm very happy. I think Mike is doing great work, and
I got a couple of questions, Carol.
And here's Bob, my partner of 52 years, Mike.
Great.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Bob.
Mike, when you got named in that list of people influenced by Russian KGB or something, a year or two ago, how did that affect you personally? Did that lead to censorship or what?
Well, you're referring to the, what was it called, a prop or not list, I believe. Well,
yeah.
That just, it proved to me, seeing my websites on that list proved to me that this fraudulent effort to try to say that Russia stole the election by influencing these websites, I knew it was a massive fraud because my name was on the list, and I don't speak Russian. I've never been to Russia. No one ever contacted me from Russia. So I said,
right.
This is nonsense. And ever since, I've known that was a complete fraud. I know it personally, firsthand.
But it didn't influence YouTube to ban you or whatever other censorship can happen. It didn't influence somebody to go after you.
I mean, it may have. It may have been part of YouTube's algorithm. I don't know. It's a black box over there at YouTube.
Yeah.
What I know is that the effort has been on to ban people, not just for, there are a lot of, let's say, conservative political voices being banned, but there are also a lot of people being banned just because they're talking about nutrition, cannabis medicine. They're, let's say, questioning ingredients in medicines or some ingredients in certain vaccines, for example. Anybody raising questions right now is getting banned for those reasons. And that's kind of a scary thing that we've come to in our society. And I just hope to fight against that and provide platforms for people to talk freely and debate these issues.
Okay, my next question is, do you think at the ground level there is an Illuminati that wants to depopulate and diminish the population, or do you think greed, general human condition, is creating this Armageddon scenario you see inevitable? Or is it both?
Well,
or is the one riding on the other?
I've actually done a couple lectures on this point, and I'll summarize it quickly here. I think that for a long time, the colonization of the geography of the world was desired by the people in charge, the kings and queens and so on, the elitists who run nations. And they needed bodies, they needed people to colonize and build the farms and build the factories and run the factories and so on. I think that era has ended where now they see people, this is not me saying this is them saying it, they see people as being now a burden and obsolete because they see the rise of automation, humanoid robots taking over the labor, and they are concerned about mass pollution, deforestation, ecological damage, climate change, all these things. And so in their minds, they now believe that the planet needs to be depopulated. So they used to be pro-population, and now I think they're pro-depopulation. But this is going to play out over many, many generations, I think. But right now, I mean, openly, you hear people like Bill Gates talking about sort of a soft depopulation, which is infertility and a lack of replacing humans, things like that. That's very commonly talked about. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yep. So it's all mixed up, and the oligarchies are trying to hold on what they have, but they're up against an amazing decentralization that they can't control. So we don't know who can win in this situation. The options are open.
You've really nailed it. Decentralization, I think, is the key. And I think decentralization ultimately wins because I don't think you can put everybody back in the box where there were only 3 news channels and everybody agreed on everything because they all watched the same 3 channels. I think those days are over. And in fact, the master-slave relationship of kings and peons and all that stuff, where people being ruled by a centralized system, I think those days are coming to an end very quickly as well. So we'll see how that plays out, but it's probably not going to be very peaceful along the way.
Right, because identity comes in with knowledge, and identity crisis is what everybody experiences, and you got multi-consciousness, different levels. I don't like to say people are being dumbed down. They're just being overwhelmed and fragmented into all kinds of tunnels, and there's all kinds of patterns of information that are startling to people that fascinate them. So they can get lost for 5 years in the UFO channel, exploring that and forget about their stuff. So,
Bob, you're all totally broken up.
Oh, okay. You didn't hear any of that?
Oh yeah,
I got most of that.
Yeah, people streaming into their
multi-consciousness
channel.
Multi-consciousness, getting lost, and we're learning a living, regardless, everybody has to have the artistic sensibility of learning and checking what they think, and pattern recognition takes over, and so there will be chaos from that. And so we're not sure who's being made dumb or not. Do you know what I mean? What is being measuring who's intelligent or not?
Yeah, Mike,
Right.
Let me just say, Bob's a media analyst, and he's developed a theory that we have 5 bodies. One is the chip body, and one is the TV body, one is the chemical body, one is the astral body, so that people are distracted in all those different bodies, and that's why they can almost disdain their chemical body by doing atrocious things to it, and then all of a sudden they come back and do CrossFit and try to get it back. So it's yeah, we have some pretty interesting discussions.
But I'll just wrap it up with this. Have you read anything by Arthur Croker or Marshall McLuhan? Are those authors familiar to you?
No, they're not.
Okay, well, that's what I would recommend. Look up Marshall McLuhan, M-C-L-U-H-A-N. He's the Einstein of the second half of the 20th century, but in our multi-conscious world, not many people know that. But everybody from the KGB and the CIA to Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have built on McLuhan, and they'll tell you that.
Well, I can tell from what you said. I mean, you're obviously incredibly intelligent and insightful about what's going on. And one of the thoughts that I have along those lines is how the spiritual body interfaces through the physical body. For example, you have a physical brain, but you have a non-physical mind, and the brain helps translate your non-physical intentions so that you can live through your body and walk in the physical world and so on. But when people poison the physical brain with heavy metals and chemicals and so on, then the mind, even though it may be pure outside the body, when it's trying to be translated through the physical brain, it gets distorted by the poisoning of the physical organ, the brain organ. And so you see a lot of people who are distorted, even though their soul is not evil, their soul is pure, but their manifestation through this twisted physical presence can be, very, very unhealthy or disastrous even. Right.
So we say that we have a physical, a non-physical, and a labyrinth of the mind. It's 3 factors. It's not, spiritual mind and body physical. There's 3 factors, and the mind is the most powerful. It's in the middle, confusing the communication between the non-physical and the physical.
Yeah, the mind says, let me take that Prozac, and I take it, and then it blasts my physical and my spiritual, and I go out and shoot somebody. That's what's happening.
Right. That's happening all too often.
Right. Let me ask this, Bob. Thank you, Bob. That was great. A little while ago, we had a little bit of interaction. I was sort of asking you, Mike, if you would ever put up a channel about iatrogenic stories of people who've been harmed by medicine. And
yes.
I thought that would be a great way for us to get the millions of people that we know are being harmed, and almost like, what do we call it? Anyway, getting just lists of people kind of signing on to present it to somebody to say where, for example, this opioid epidemic, it's the tip of the iceberg. It's become the scapegoat of every drug that's being prescribed. So it's like takes the heat off all the other drugs by thinking it's all about opioids. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, it's in so many ways it's a great suggestion, and yet in so many ways I think we're in a post-fact world where even if we made people, members of Congress or whoever, aware of all the deaths, the iatrogenic deaths and death by medicine, all these numbers, a couple 100,000 Americans a year easily killed by, doctors and drugs. Even if we made them aware, I don't think that matters to them anymore. Mm-hmm. I think they're so beholden to the drug company interests, and they've so much decided to betray humanity that this idea that medicine should be for healing is almost an alien thought to those who control the halls of power.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's exactly why after I wrote Death by Modern Medicine, I did a few years in the health freedom movement. I saw that Codex was just going to ram right through no matter what. That's where I just decided to take care of me and mine and work with the protocols I'm working with to try to help for, as we say, for whosoever will. Because it's got to be the people that make the choice to get healthy and stop watching the news and listening to so much of the negative. And although we have to identify and inform people, you don't have to get trapped in that. And I'm glad Ginny asked the question about what do you do to stay positive. And yes, it is about choice. And no, we're not going to we can't wait for the government to fix anything. They are just not going to do that. So it is
absolutely
up to us. Right.
And there's also a very Go ahead.
I was just going to add, because they follow Goldman Sachs' dictum that curing disease is not good for the economy. That should be on the headline of every site.
That's right. That's exactly right. I was just thinking how that model, if you look at free market economics, the big pharma model breaks the supposed benefits of free market economics. Now, I mean, I'm not in favor of centralized planned economies. I prefer free market decisions. But when you have a corporation that dominates every sector of science, medicine, regulatory bodies, and bribes doctors by the tens of thousands, and runs TV ads, and controls the media, and that corporation profits by keeping people sick, then you've broken the free market system, and consumers are not able to make informed decisions in their own self-interest. They end up purchasing medications that are not in their own self-interest, that contradict their self-interest, but enrich the drug companies themselves. But you really can't call it a free market. It's actually a distorted monopolistic market. So that's what we need to break wide open. We have to end the monopoly and then allow a true free market to come in so that people can decide what form of medicine they wish to pursue on their own.
And we just break it one person at a time. There is no mob that's going to raid the FDA and create any change, like you said. You do it on your own. You find other people that will do it, and it is by getting healthy, by doing protocols that keep you healthy and trying to keep your sense of humor in the midst of it all.
But you do have mob actions happening. That's Trumpism. See, that's where every factor is in the game. Every move is our next for the people and for individual. So there's lots of excitement on all fronts.
It's all interrelated, and I think you can't have a healthy society as a whole if the individual members of that society are not healthy. And so we're seeing a massive polarization, fanaticism, hysteria in some cases. We're seeing a lot of conflict and violence, and I think this is really an extension of the lack of health from the individual, people growing up on junk food, living indoors. I mean, how many of today's kids have never been outside, walking in a forest, playing in a sandbox, swinging on a tree, on a swing, a rope from a tree, all these things. And it adds up, and then you inundate them, with toxic heavy metals and plasticizer hormone disruptors in the food supply. You inundate them with all these forms of medicine and toxic food, and what do you get? Well, you get the result that we're starting to see right now, which is a society on just almost at the edge of falling off a cliff, really. So it's cause and effect.
Right. And pushed to the extreme, it could flip into the opposite, which sometimes that's what it takes people to do, is come to the crisis point before they do wake up. But we only have a couple minutes left. I better go back to Ginny. Ginny, can you wrap it up for us? We didn't really get to many questions.
Yeah, I can. Yes, I want to say, first of all, Mike, that the enthusiasm on our chat line is palpable, and everybody's really enjoying your engagement. So thank you so much for coming. And we do have questions and callers, people that we couldn't get to in this hour. And so, of course, we just want to let you know you're welcome back anytime, and you are family here, and we are family with you as far as just the sharing of that mind and that heart's desire to have that liberty and that freedom to pursue the individual choice and to also make the best possible choice for everybody. And I do want to remind everybody that Mike's got the science.news and also the beta.real.video that we want to be able to get behind and support as well. But I have one question. I hope it's a quick one. Let me just do this one from Shane, who said, I've seen videos you talking about the importance effects of astaxanthin on your skin. You've got 1 minute. Can you answer that question?
Well, astaxanthin, is a microalgae-grown carotenoid. It's fat-soluble. So if you take astaxanthin with dietary fats, omega-3s, chia seeds, fish oil, whatever, it's going to get transported to all the right places in your body that you have fat cells, which includes, neuron cells and skin cells and so on. So as a carotenoid, even in the microalgae form, it protects the organism from excessive ultraviolet radiation. And it has some of that same effect in humans as well. So anyway, it's just a really great nutrient to check out, among many others.
Very good. Fantastic. Okay. That's as far as we could get. Thank you for all of our callers and listeners with Mike Adams tonight. Again, Mike, thank you so much. And Carolyn, your parting words for Mike?
Mike, I give you a big fist bump. Thank you so much.
All right. To all of you as well. It was nice talking with you. Thanks for the invite. I really enjoyed it. Fascinating discussion.
Okay.
Thank you so
care,
much,
Mike.
Everybody. Hang in for hour 2. We'll be right back with Dr.
Thank you,
Dean,
Mike.
y'all.
By visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
You can climb floors and then worlds show up. You can go downstairs and worlds disappear. You can go downstairs up on the rooftop and you open the door and take a step and you go, I'm on the rooftop. Wait a minute, I better pay attention. So that becomes a fun thing. So that's why we have to come back and say this, relax and allow, soften it up, get your foot off the gas, don't slam on the brakes, just let it coast where you want it to go. Soften, be easy about all this, and stop making a great big huge thing out of great big nothingnesses, because the nothingnesses are serving you very well. You like this blissful place of not caring, because now you care so much about everything that you've got yourself in a position where you don't really care about anything. Good. It's wonderful. Thank you. We are happily, easily ready for more in your experience.
AchieveRadio.com.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The wellness scene with Dr. D.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. Welcome back, Carolyn. That was a great first hour. Did you have fun?
Oh, yeah. Mike is such a gentleman. He's just a sweetheart. When I've met him at the various conferences, he's a really nice man and doing great work, as you can tell. So, I think we had a great first hour, and he's the type of guy you could talk with for days. He's got so much knowledge. It'd be fun to get him and Bob together.
Yeah, I agree. They had a nice repartee. Yeah, very nice engagement with one another. I thought that was great. Carolyn, I want to say we've got callers waiting for you, and also I just got the most amazing testimonial on our Pico Silver, and I am just going crazy. And I want you to read it on the air and tell everybody what it is. I sent it to you and put it in your inbox.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. Yep, this Pico Silver is blowing me away. So just tell everybody that real quick, and then we're going to take our phone calls.
Just wanted you to know how excited I am about the Pico Silver. I have had inner ear problems for quite a few years, the latest being fluid in the ears that gurgle. My auntie advised me that all I had to do was hold my nose closed with my fingers and blow air into the ear, and that would clear the fluid out, which has not happened. That'll only happen, actually, sidebar, if the fluid is in your outer ear. When it's in your inner ear, it can't get out through your eardrums. But, I mean, they're talking about equalizing pressure in your ears. After using 1 teaspoon of Pico Silver daily for 1 week, I realized there was no more gurgling. Really excited about that. We'll continue to use the Pico Silver to see what else happens. Many thanks for making the Pico Silver available. Yes, and we're definitely getting all kinds of reports back from people. Our people know we can't talk about how amazing the silver is and how important it is for the immune system. We tell people to go online and read what they can about the silver studies. I've read a paper recently that just blew my socks off, and it's another one of these, quote, cures that we're not allowed to talk about. The FDA won't let you talk about natural supplements that act like drugs, or else they'll call them a drug. So, yeah, you've got your work cut out for you by doing your own research here. So we'll say that. I do have some mailbag, but if we want to answer some questions that maybe we're headed for Mike or take phone calls, you go ahead and organize that, Ginny.
Okay, I just have to say this. What is going on with the Pico Silver that actually would improve somebody's hearing? Because, Carolyn, we have a lot of people who've got hearing challenges. And now I gather this is water. I don't know if that it's, because people write a lot about tinnitus. But, I mean, tinnitus, what do you think that is? Is that like a electrical, nerve repair type of a thing? What do you think it is?
Well, it's inflammation that is probably being caused by low-grade subclinical infection. Medicine only tells you to treat infections when it gets so bad that you have a fever and pain and discharge and horrible stuff. But the infection has to start somewhere. It starts with a couple of organisms. When it gets to 1 trillion, then you have a, quote, infection, then you get an antibiotic. But what's going on between one organism and 1 trillion? Well, that's a slow, the buildup of the infectious load and the inflammation as the immune system tries to treat it. And I don't know if it was in the webinar or in a previous radio show where I outlined why people are saying their joints are better with the Pico Silver. Well, in Chinese medicine, I learned that infectious organisms are diverted from the internal organs that are vital, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys. Infections are diverted to the joints, which are not that vital. And so you will start getting joint pain, and that's then called arthritis, which says nothing. Arthra is joint, and itis is an inflammation. But they never say, oh yeah, that's a subclinical infection, or even if they do, they'll say, well, we'll wait until it gets worse and then we'll treat it. So what we're doing with the Pico Silvers, people are using it to boost their immune system against this or that, and then finding out, oh my gosh, maybe it is treating a subclinical something or other somewhere in my body. And with the inner ear, that can start with yeast overgrowth. Yeast either toxins or yeast itself causing inflammation and a buildup of mucus. Any mucous membrane can be colonized by yeast. And then the yeast will make a home for staphylococcal bacteria or maybe any other bacteria. I just know about staph bacteria being coincidental with yeast overgrowth because I've written about this, I talk about this. When I first started doing hospital work, I started getting little staphylococcal boils in my nose from the staph that's everywhere in the hospitals, the antibiotic-resistant staph. Staphylococcal bacteria colonize our skins. They're everywhere. But when you get yeast overgrowth, which I used to have, then the staph will find a little happy home in your mucous membranes and start causing an infection. And then these days you'll get some sort of infection, some weird place in your body, and all of a sudden, it's MRSA. It's methicillin-resistant staph infection, and we might have to cut off your limb. And what you need to do for any sort of infection is go on a yeast detox, and that includes the pico silver as one of the barriers to yeast. Yeast is necessary in the body. You need some of it because it breaks down debris. They find yeast around cancer, and then all of a sudden people are saying, yeast causes cancer. No, it chews up cancer to try to get rid of it. And that's its job, chewing up debris and rotten matter. And that's why another reason why people have a lot of yeast, it'll build up in the intestines with all the rotted synthetic food we're eating. Sounds disgusting, and it is. And what we say about yeast, we know you need some of it, so we just say balance it out. Don't use the anti-yeast drugs. Just use herbals and pico silver to try to put the yeast in balance. And the pico silver also is good for supporting the body against viruses and parasites and bacteria. So there.
Is there a limit of how many tablespoons you take a day of pico silver?
We just do teaspoons, Bob. You still haven't got that right. Well, I say mute yourself. It's too much. I say on the label a half teaspoon. You can take a half teaspoon a day up to 6 times a day, I think. But I know when I had my airplane cold, I took 6 teaspoons through the day. I think that's a reasonable maximum for my acute infection. And some people say you can take for years and not have a problem. I do believe that with ours because it's a stabilized ion of silver. It's not a silver compound that can build up in the body. But that's one of the so-called problems with dosing pico silver. We can't tell people how much to take. I just say take a small amount if you have a small problem. Take a large amount if you have a large problem. Okay, Bob?
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let me just say I posted the link to the YouTube webinar that Carolyn did last week. It's called Lowering Your Infectious Load. It's incredibly popular. We've already had over 5,000 views. And she ran a Pico Silver discount of 30%. The code is all caps Silver30. And it's been so popular we continued it. And mostly what I'm saying is I think everybody on the whole planet should have to try it just to see what the heck is going to happen. I mean, if you've got some low-grade infection in your body that's oppressing your joints or your hearing or who the heck knows what, and we can kick it out with this stuff, just a teaspoon or 2 a day, I'm saying, come on, y'all, let's do it. So that's my little, that's my encouragement for everybody. But the link is on the the chat line, and I'll post it in the show notes as we do the archive here for everybody. Okay, Carolyn, Jay from Edmonton, don't want to make that mistake. Jay from Edmonton has been holding. He's got a question for you, so I'm going to take him off and we can talk to him real quick. So welcome. Good evening, Jay. You're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could let us know your question or comment.
Yes, thanks for letting me be part of the show. My question is in regards to, I know a person, a friend actually, who's been using SSRI for 14 years for anxiety, and I'm going like, there's some behaviors that I see that the person's not aware of, but I see it, and I just wondered, how do you, these things are hard to, like, it's like really like taking candy from a baby. It's very, very hard to get these people off of the things, and the person, they get convinced that, you know, that there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but it's just, I feel it's destroying some of their organs inside. I feel for 14 years is a long time. Yeah. It's
a long time. And a lot of these SSRIs, you can look them up. Some of them have fluoride in them, and the fluoride is going to kill their magnesium, and then you get magnesium deficiency side effects on top of all the other stated side effects. If you just look them up, there's drowsiness, nausea, dry mouth, insomnia, diarrhea, nervousness, agitation, or restlessness. The person's taking it for anxiety, but they get nervous, agitated, or restless, and it's those symptoms. They minimize the words here. The agitation can actually lead to suicidal or homicidal thoughts, because it's the SSRIs that are implicated in most of the school shootings. So it's dangerous stuff, but I suppose at a certain point people are addicted to them and afraid to come off them. It really has to be their decision to try to wean off them.
But then you get them on our products.
Yeah, only if a person will go through the stages of studying our products, buying the products, and then taking them. So I don't know what you are trying to do for your friend, and I don't know if you have a specific question for me, but yeah, they are pretty toxic drugs, and they only work maybe. In the studies, they work maybe 40% at the time. We don't even know how realistic that is. They used to study SSRIs against placebo, but they found placebos worked better than SSRIs, so then they stopped those studies. They now just test one drug against another to see if one is a little better than the other. So it's a bad situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a person. Well, I know the person. I've heard that some of these clinical testings for these SSRI drugs were only like very minimal testing on it. So we don't know. We're seeing a long-term effect. So I'm not sure to do. It's like, because I see some behaviors I see some really interesting behaviors right now where the person is going, says brain, and I'm going like, well, what's going on there? When the person is like trying to think of something real quick, and the brain is not doing anything. I mean, it's not doing it; it's just trying to think, but those drugs are keeping that person's thinking patterns back. So.
Well, look up and see if there's a book that's been written that may be suitable to give to your friend. I know one book is called Prozac Nation, and there are many, many books out there that might be helpful. Just some short book that you could say, well, look, I came upon this, because you can't really lecture a person about this. You just sort of present information. There's not much else to do, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm really...
Okay, Jay, I don't know what else to say to help you, but shall we just move on, or do you have another question?
With SSRI drugs, do you know what kind of organs can be affected from using those for a long period of time?
Well, like I said about it diminishing your magnesium, we know that magnesium deficiency can be implicated in 65 different medical medical diagnoses. So what it means is people will be diagnosed with a disease, and it'll really be magnesium deficiency. And those diseases are just from the brain, right down to your toes. So it's any organ.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you very much then for your
Okay, Jay.
help.
Yeah, sorry to hear about your friend. Yeah.
Remember this, Jay. It's not your responsibility what happens to this person.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah, I like to encourage them, so yeah. Thanks.
Get in discussion with him, see what range of stuff he won't talk about. That has nothing to do with his SSRI. And say, hey, you used to be able to talk about this stuff. Why can't you talk about that? Question his interactivity as a friend.
Yeah.
If questions evoked.
Well, when you're on a medication for 14 years, you really don't know yourself. I mean, you can't even remember yourself before. It's like Jay remembers what the friend was like 14 years ago, but the friend wouldn't be able to draw any parallels. They get shifted so infinitesimally over time that they're a whole different person.
Yeah.
Okay.
True. Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank
Jay.
you.
Thanks a lot for calling in. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, wonderful. Excellent. Aw. It's a double-edged sword, that caring about people. You care, you want to share. We encourage our customers to share, but then it's up to a point, then you have to let go, and it's kind of difficult to find that line sometimes. All right, Carolyn, let's run back through the chat room a little bit and ask some of these questions that didn't get answered with Mike in the first hour. And I've got some product-related questions for you, too. Question about the restructure. I think I saw there's stevia in it. Can I ask why? Must it be sweetened at all?
Yeah.
Because, that's right.
90% of people will not use a protein powder unless it tastes good, period.
Yeah, that's
it.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, there are people who they'll add their own this or that, or they want something bland, but I don't think you can find any non-sweetened protein powders out there. And, yeah.
And our products protect you from whatever's bad about stevia.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Take our other products, you're covered.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Jenny.
Okay, very good. How is another quick question from the same arena. How is silver different than dosing with magnesium? Did we just talk about that? Did you mention that?
Well, they're two different minerals. I mean, they do many different things. We do talk about magnesium helping the immune system. That's true because it does work on so many parts of the body, but my gosh, some of the things that silver does, it goes into the white blood cells. It supports the white blood cells as they attach to infectious organisms. It helps stimulate red blood cell activity. I have to find a way, this silver report that we have, Jenny, the 37-page report. I mean, is there a way that we can make that available to people? Because it describes.
Yes, absolutely. Once you edit it for whatever you think is appropriate, he absolutely said we can share it with all of our customers.
Oh my gosh! Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So for our diehard researchers, of which I'm one, there are words that we can make available so you understand what silver does. And all the minerals do different things. God and nature created all these things for different purposes. So I don't know if that answers the question because it's just kind of a open-ended question there. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay. Very good. All right. Excellent. Nancy, our good friend Nancy from Portland, Oregon, typed in at the very beginning of the show, hello, everybody, checking in to enjoy another installment of learning. I missed last week, but listened later. I began using the Pico Silver, and it seems to be taking the edges off of the lingering, more chronic responses that my body has given me more than I would like to have. I have used it now for a week, approximately maybe 3 teaspoons a day. Still unsure how consistently I should use it, daily or intermittently, for what timelines. We'll be interested in hearing more as other folks try the product. So, Carolyn, would you like to comment on that? And Nancy's always, she's been listening for years, a very good customer of ours, good friend, and always struggling with yeast. She's got a very aggressive diet. She's very, good, very well educated about it, but she still has, like she says, these little lingering things. So it seems it's probably going in and doing that, really ground level kind of fundamental clearing of some of that. Can you talk a little bit about the dosing?
Yes, and I've already said that it is difficult to know. It's safe to take long term, but I personally, I can just talk about what I did. I took 6 teaspoons a day for 2 days. After the first 12 hours, my cold was gone, but I continued into the second day. Third day, I did 3 teaspoons. Fourth day, I did 2 teaspoons. And now I'm doing a teaspoon a day for probably I'll do it for another 2 weeks. I'll go off for a couple of weeks, and then I might do 1 or 2 teaspoons a day for a week. I'm thinking I'll do 1 or 2 teaspoons a day for a week every month and see the difference. Right now, after the cold wind, I noticed some of my excess mucus, nasal mucus, was much improved just doing the 1 to 2 teaspoons of silver. So it is sort of assessing your own symptoms and see how you feel, and just developing your own protocol for how much you do it. What I do sometimes, and I'm looking up for O-ring testing, capital O-RING testing. It's a kinesiology muscle test using your own fingers to ask questions. Yes or no? Will I use silver today? Yes or no? How much? 1, 2, 3. That type of muscle testing that some chiropractors do, you can learn how to do on your own. And I'm trying to find, there were YouTubes on it. What I'll do is find a YouTube that I know about and get Ginny to put it up somewhere, the O-ring test, how to conduct.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the muscle testing one. I think we've used that before, but yeah, I will put it in the show notes. Right, it's to ask yourself yes or no. Years ago when I first learned it and I do it, to me it was just sort of kind of a joke, and I'd play games with it, and this isn't working. But then when you are asking yourself, sometimes you just get the answer before your fingers even tell you. You just know, I need more of this, or I need less of this. It really is getting into the taking responsibility for your own health and getting enough information to make an educated guess, not just leaving it up to somebody else. So I guess with the silver, we just know it's safe to take it, but you don't want to waste it by taking more than you need. Basically, I think that's what you'd say to yourself. Let me just take enough to do the job, but not overdo it. But yeah, I'll look through YouTube for an O-ring test. Okay, Ginny, go ahead. Okay, another question. I was listening to the archives, and Carolyn, you said back in 2013 that you were looking forward to getting your vision improved and getting rid of your glasses. It was a show talking about RNA drops. Just wondering how that went. Did your vision improve?
What would that, or 2013? Because, yeah, I had horrible vision all my life, but I did the LASIK treatment on my eyes. What year was that, Bob, in New York?
2002.
2002. And periodically I'm working on my eyes. I go through fits and starts using a castor oil.
Well, the surgery really worked.
Yeah, that works for my vision, but just to keep it, I had real bad astigmatism, so I tend to get floaters, for example. So to keep that, and Bob's better actually with his vision than I am. He doesn't even use reading glasses anymore when he's reading on the computer. So I still need reading glasses. I still use a drop of castor oil in each eye, maybe once a week. Only once a week, I'll put a drop or two of RNA drops in saline and rinse my eyes. If I do it for more than a couple of times or do it a couple days in a row, my eyes actually get a bit irritated. So I know something's going on. So for me, I just continue to play with my eyes.
But you did get incredible, almost 20/20 vision from the surgery.
Yeah, and that's where, I've had eye surgery, I've had ear surgery. I think surgery can be fantastic. So anyway, that's that.
We have a lot of, the eyes are interesting. They're the last thing to change according to the Priority of the Body series that we did with Ion back in the day. And we have a lot of people who have improved vision or no longer need their readers. Lots of people give that testimonial, and then some people, it just never does change. So it's kind of a mixed bag on the eyeballs. Okay, let's see. Where are we? This is from Barb Litchfield. Dr. Dean. Dr. Dean recommends using Empower Plus Advanced for depression. Do you recommend taking this product in addition to all the Reset products, Remag, Remite, RNA Drops, Reset Serum, Pico Silver, and Restructure? I don't take Recalcia because I think I'm already getting a lot in the food. Thank you.
Well, I started recommending Empower Plus many years ago, and recently, Ginny told me that people are being told if they go on Empower Plus that people have to stop my magnesium. So I said, well, forget that. But partly I'm still referencing Empower Plus because I'm not going to treat depression, serious depression, from our website or on a radio show. If people have such bad depression, they've been on antidepressants, like Jay's friend, I'm not going to tell people, well, just take Remag and you'll be fine. That there's so much else going on. So that's why I refer to a company, TrueHope.com. They're up in Canada. That's all they do is work with Empower Plus, and they have great customer service themselves. So I go there, and maybe people can wean off Empower Plus when they build up all their mineral stores with our products. The Empower Plus nutrients are not ionic. They're not pico-ionic, so they're not as well absorbed as ours, and they use very high-potency supplements, but they have much better track record than the drugs. They have like 80 to 90% effectiveness, and they've been doing the research trials. So I will still recommend them because we're not in the anti-depression business at all.
Let me say that when the customer service representatives, as a rule, at Empower Plus tell everybody to discontinue all their supplements, and that included ours. And when I called them and said, what are you doing? And they said, oh, my gosh, no, not Dr. Dean stuff. We didn't know. We love Dr. Dean. She's no. So just know that if they have told you that, or anybody listening to this archive anywhere in the future, you can call in for clarification and just confirm that they're not talking about our products. They're talking about the, general, stratosphere of crap that's out there, excuse my language, that most people are taking and getting no value from and all the rest of it. That's what they're asking people to discontinue. So we got that worked out with them, just so that, is for the record.
Perfect. Very good.
Okay. Excellente. Let's see. So I think we're kind of caught up here. Got everything. Okay, Dominic. I am detoxing from heavy metals. How will silver affect detoxing heavy metals? Will it detox heavy metals too quickly and make me sick?
Well, I don't think silver detoxes heavy metals. But like we say with all our products, start low and go slow, and you will you'll find out yourself how your body's reacting to it. And I'm looking at this long report to see if they have anything about heavy metals in their report, and they do not. So that's what I would say, but it is interesting, as we're already finding out from people when they do take the silver, what shifts they find in their body. And I don't think we've heard any negative Herxheimer-type reactions, have we, Ginny?
We haven't had any. And let me just say, also remind everybody, pico silver is not a colloidal. So when you go to do your, inquiries and stuff like that, we're glad you're asking us the questions, because the colloidal answers don't necessarily apply. Pico silver is picometer size. It is very, very, very small, and as a result, it operates differently in the body. So we're not having the detox reactions, and I think people are, doing what we ask them to. Go low, start low, go slow, build your dose like we do with our other things, and we're not getting a big cast-off reaction, no. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. Right, it would be closer to what they're calling a nano silver. I don't use nano because of nanotechnology. The word nano has such negative implications, but the size is similar. So it may be closer to nano silver, but even that nano silver, I think they start with a silver citrate. So it's a compound. What we have is a pure silver that's just a silver ion. The ion is stabilized, just like our Remag and Remite are stabilized ions. So they will go directly into cells or into fluids in the body and attach themselves to white blood cells and start lopping off infectious organisms as one of the many things they do.
Very good. Outstanding. Oh, it's so exciting. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
It's just winning, winning on every level, winning all the time, winning. I mean, it's like winning. It's just incredible. I mean, it's like you come home with a little trophy every day. It's so fun. Okay, Carolyn, do you want to do some mailbag stuff?
Yes, mailbag. But what Ginny's referring to there is that we just wanted to put out the silver because we knew our chemists could make a good silver, and we wouldn't have to send people to other websites or other stores. They could just get everything from us, and all of a sudden it turns out to be a real winner because it is so well absorbed, and maybe it's the synergism of working with all the other products as well, where we've finally given the body the silver that it requires. There is silver in the body. If we could get back to all the silver studies that have been done and let medicine see how incredible they are, some researchers are saying silver should have an RDA. It is something that the body requires, but with the distraction of the FDA on just looking at drugs, they're not even looking at silver, and they'll attack silver. So it's up to us.
Yes, Carolyn. We are helped by so many factors that it's an unfair competition with everybody else. We are assisted by so many things that we can't lose.
We are angels on the head of a pin.
Super angels.
Super angels. Okay, mailbag. Now, here's a testimonial on fasting that someone wrote in, and I'm not saying this is what anybody should do, but this customer said, today is the last day of my 21-day fast, and I give all praise to Yah. I think she means Yahweh and Dr. Dean. Yahweh's word for the name of God. To Yahweh and Dr. Dean and her supplements. I know I would not have been able to succeed without either. The primary reason I decided to do my fast is because my hemoglobin A1C had crept up to 6. Now, I think 5.7, 5.8 is getting into the diabetic zone. So she said, I decided I needed to do something. 21 days of fasting might seem like an overkill, but I'm determined to do my part in staying healthy. So I started the same fast I'd done years ago, and it's a naturopath, and it's only water and only 40 ounces of water today. She said, needless to say, I was in great agony trying to follow his protocol. I felt absolutely terrible, did not have enough energy to lift my head off the pillow, and my pulse was 103. Bob's laughing over there. It's not a laughing matter. I then realized my electrolytes must be out of balance, according to what Dr. Dean says, and that's when I reached out to her support staff. Allie was very encouraging and indicated I should drink more water, which I did, and my energy increased. And then Dr. Dean told me to take all the supplements I was using before I started my fast. So I went on my Remag, Remite, Recalcium, Realign, RNA, and Prescript Assist. Then I heard Dr. Dean on Monday's call discuss Pico Silver, which I immediately ordered and started taking 3 teaspoons a day. That's what took me through it. When I started taking the Pico Silver, I immediately felt the effects. It put me completely in a different place, which was wonderful. I really can't explain what I felt exactly. However, my energy level increased and has been pretty consistent throughout. I feel so fortunate and grateful to be able to start and finish my fast with the support of Dr. Dean and staff. So, isn't that awesome, Ginny? Pretty cool.
That is so awesome. Hold on just a sec. And, you know, honestly, I mean, truly, that is like exactly what customer service does every day, all day. They talk, Allie, Melody Rose, Megan, Julie, everybody, Pam, Doug, everybody. I mean, they're on the phone, and they're supporting people in whatever their little hearts desire, and it's just really awesome. So all together, just really an awesome testimonial.
Oh, and she also said other things I did during my fast, which I do recommend in, which would that be? The Yeast Detox book, Reset the Yeast Connection. She took psyllium and bentonite to absorb toxins. She did coffee enemas, and I used those myself, and she took magnesium baths. So instead of just starving the body and, letting it suffer, we do recommend the nutrients, which are what the body's looking for in foods. And these nutrients help detox the body and lower your insulin levels. Lowering the insulin then takes the burden off the cells. The whole insulin resistance is what creates the diabetes, the eating sugar and carbohydrates, put your blood sugar up, get your insulin levels up, adds weight to your torso. So it's, as I said, I'm not telling everybody to do a 21-day fast. I've only done a 5-day fast, but I used exactly what this person did, and it was a breeze. And now I just maintain my weight with eating keto diet. The next testimonial, it's another Pico one. RNA Pico bolts of cellular lighting. This is how it begins. I now speed mow my lawn at 93 degrees in sunny North Carolina. Took me 56 minutes, 46 seconds. I did 2.2 miles. I've been doing this for a year. Also been taking RNA drops, Remag, Remite, Recalcia in my 6 quarts of clean water, along with daily restructure powder for nearly 2 years. I'm 65 years old, commercial pilot. My resting pulse is 52, blood pressure 110/70, and he's a happy guy. I remember him from the beginning, just, lots of problems, and now perfect. Another one, now this was on Facebook page. You probably remember it, Ginny. I've never gotten around to it, but this woman says, November 2015, I lay on the floor unconscious for 12 hours until my husband got home. Rushed to the hospital, blood pressure 250/120. I left the doctor scratching their heads. That's why I did not have a stroke or heart attack. The past couple of years, I'd been drinking minerals from another company, yet was told about your magnesium Remag, so I gave it a try. On day 1, I could tell a huge difference. I felt like my thoughts were not fragmented anymore, and my blood pressure seemed to be coming down, yet I still took my script of lisinopril. I'm currently on day 4 and feel so much better that I have to remind myself to take my script, as before my body would feel the effects of not having the medicine around the time I would need it. I also would still get stressed, and yet now it seems as though that is gone. I've used the tablets of magnesium, but they did not have the effect that this Remag does. Thank you, Dr. Dean. I hope to be off the lisinopril soon. So that's a common expression that we hear. People try other mags, and some wonderful angel in their life tells them to try Remag, and they get better. Ginny, did you inhale?
Yeah. Sounds like a Bill Clinton joke. I did not inhale. Yes, I'm good. I'm here. I'm here.
Now, this is our dear Canadian friend Joan. She's responding to my blog on non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and she talked about rebuilding her shoulder after it was shattered. And she said as soon as she got released from her incarceration at the hospital and later a nursing home, she got right on her Remag, and it worked beautifully. And she does her Himalayan salt, and she does all the complement formulas, actually. And she's out there, seriously, Ginny, she's like a magnesium whisperer, constantly talking to people about magnesium and about all the products, actually. And that makes me realize that we haven't mentioned the blogs. Let me go to my website and see what blogs I did this week. Oh, yeah. I did whack-a-mole medicine. And this actually came up in our webinar. I had a great slide about whack-a-mole medicine. During our Lower Your Infectious Load webinar, Ginny and I explained how to strengthen your immune system to deal with the over 39 trillion microorganisms that inhabit the body and when out of balance can cause low-grade or subclinical infections. I explained allopathic medicine's whack-a-mole policy of attacking each infection as it rears its ugly head. It's simply an extension of the mandate of medicine to identify a symptom, diagnose it as a disease, and treat the disease with drugs or surgery. And I also said, unfortunately, that seems to be the approach of alternative medicine as well. Have a symptom, take a supplement. And just going on about the frustration of reading one too many health stories where a person managed to survive misdiagnosis and mistreatment at the hands of allopathic, alternative, and lay practitioners, come out the other end alive and in better health after years of experimenting. So I'm just saying to people, we've all been there and done that, and with the protocols that we're recommending at RNA Reset, you can just just take the indicated minerals, start to feel better, and by default, you're getting better, you're getting healthier, and then you can take more responsibility for your health. But as I said, it's just very frustrating when we hear the stories of people who've taken years and years and years, and then they take Remag, and in their first day, they're feeling better than they ever have. First day. So that was what, Bob?
With our products, you can eat and consume anything. This is becoming obvious. You don't have problems. So you got to start sort of diminishing your natural habit from years of paranoia of worrying about things. Once you get on our products and clear up and get the balance level, you can do anything. You don't have to worry about anything. You really don't. And this is what the guy who started the product first. Me,
Bob. Yeah, I mean, we don't really say that. Customer service would never say do all the horrible things that you want, because sometimes you have to just be a little cautious or do the experiment.
But that's real health, when your body can take on anything. So it might take 5 years to get to that point, but we get there, don't we?
Yeah, okay, that's what you have to say. Eventually you can do the experiment and survive it. And like me, I sometimes, well, yes, with people being on the island lately, I've done a lot of eating out, and occasionally I'll spend a night of burping and flatulating and realize, well, maybe I shouldn't have eaten that much. So you do the experiment and you survive it and decide, do you want to keep doing that or not?
But part of health, I'm saying, is you don't have to be paranoid, and you don't have to research and create new issues for yourself because somebody brought something up you hadn't heard of. You got to diminish the paranoia when you're really healthy.
Right.
You will.
Right. Yeah, and that's what customer service is always saying to people. Well, maybe you don't need all this testing or all these drugs or all these supplements. And we don't even say that to people, but that's the point that people get to is, wow, maybe I don't need to be paranoid where I'm constantly searching the internet for what's the next thing I can take. Because seriously, we have had people who've come to us on hundreds of supplement pills a day, no better, and they take our 5 products and they start to get better very quickly, and they say, golly, I guess I don't need all these other things. But what's happened is people will take all these other things just out of fear and out of hope and belief that it's going to do for them actually what our products do very completely. But anyway, Jenny.
Well, let me just say, let me just say something about that, Carolyn. I was talking to a friend, not through customer service, and they were asking me once they started the Remag and the Remite if they should continue to take their multivitamin. And I just said very casually, well, does it do anything for you? Does it make you feel alive? I said, our products are alive. And when you take them, you're going to feel alive. And if what you're doing doesn't make you feel alive, then why waste the money? And I was just kind of casual and dismissive. Well, she took what I said to heart, and she started to evaluate whether or not she was getting any reaction at all from anything she was taking. And she ended up eliminating about 5 or 6 things that she was taking, and she actually ended up feeling better, and she felt like after she considered it that the other things that she was taking were actually causing stress on her body. And I think that these supplements, these poorly made things that people are taking, maybe they're buying them over the counter, just because you get them in a doctor's office, like, whatever some of this stuff is, does not mean it's great. They are stressing out the body and putting more pressure on it to actually digest and try to create value for the body with the things that they're being given that they don't need. And when you look at some of the formulas and the way they're put together, you're like, what in the heck are these people thinking? Like you call them kitchen sink remedies.
Yeah, everything but the kitchen sink. Right. There were a slew of questions recently from customers where they were doing okay on our products, and even better than okay, but there was this and that going on, and then we do the second tier questions and say, well, what else are you on? And they would be on a whole slew of things. And finally I started making that assessment that, well, perhaps you're taking all these things that are kind of misdirecting your body and giving it all these signals to do things or force things, and maybe that's not what your body wants. I've always said, even about detoxing and making your own glutathione with methionine, or giving yourself the methylated B vitamins, the REMAG to support your liver detoxification. Give yourself the building blocks. Let your body decide when and where it's ready to do a function. Whereas if you force a detox on the body, or even force a lot of even turmeric, for Pete's sakes, are you forcing your body to deal with something that's not either in its level of priority? Because the body prioritizes and it wants to do the next thing. And if you're forcing it to do a detox or fight an infection and it's not ready to, then it will distract it and make you feel less alive. So yeah, maybe a future blog will be, do your supplements make you feel alive? Very good.
Carolyn, I had a friend who was a therapist and had all kinds of products that they recommended and had a business doing it. I suggested he look into our products. He wouldn't do it. He dropped dead. His products were not keeping him healthy, and he was selling to patients all over the place.
I wonder who that was.
None of your business.
And Bob had a friend. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, I had a friend once.
Another friend.
He wouldn't listen to me.
Another friend
but
died.
The products they had, they were experts on what they sold, and all kinds of customers took his advice, and he just dropped dead. Some crazy malady.
I know. Okay, so we have 6 more minutes. Ginny.
Okay, very good. I just want to bring up this thing, Carolyn, about the Argyria, the thing where, because this is a question on the chat line, don't laugh at me, about people turning gray if they take too much silver. I did a lot of research on that in customer service. We actually have an FAQ on it. And what is the primary issue with this Argyria is that people are taking silver salts or silver compounds, and they're mostly doing it through making their own. They're using colloidal homemade generators, and they don't know what they're doing. So I just want you to know this does not relate to the Pico Silver product at all in any way, shape, or form.
All right. Yeah, it's a silver compound or silver salt being deposited in the skin. And I think it first appeared in people who were in silver mines or in industrial exposure, and that's how we learned about it. And then when people got into trying to make a cheap form of silver on their own, this happened. And it's very rare. Even though it's dramatic, it's still very rare, but it's not going to happen in the Pico stabilized ionic form of Pico Silver. But yeah, they will come up because it's exposed a lot on the internet.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. Yep, I think we're doing good.
Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes. Where is my...
Oh, wait a minute. We've got a cell phone call. Let's see what we can get done in 2 minutes. Let's go down to area code 772, Stuart, Florida. You're on the line.
Hi, this is Charlotte, and I just want to tell everybody that they should drink the Restructure because it is awesome tasting. You just put it in with a cup of blueberries and a banana, and you will not believe. And I use that Harvest Bay coconut water. That's the young coconuts, that's low sugar and has a lot of potassium in it because I'm trying to get potassium in me. But the restructure is amazing. I use the Remag, the Remite, the Realign, and the Restructure, and I actually crave the Restructure. I like every day around noon I start feeling like I have to make my shake. So you will get like addicted to it. It's really, really amazing. I just really love it. And what do you eat for potassium? I'm trying to get my cardio ion test said my potassium and my magnesium are low, and my magnesium is still at 4.5, I guess, the RBC, and the potassium is still low. So I'm trying to do the keto diet, and then I'm trying to get 4,700 milligrams of potassium, and I'm eating a banana. Those Rhythm Foods dehydrated carrot sticks are 1,060 milligrams of potassium. So I'm trying to eat those, but if you eat a banana, a potato, and all of that, you can't lose weight. So it's like really hard to.
Charlotte, we only have a minute. In the Remite Recalcia book, I have the potassium broth recipe. I mean, that's the best way to get potassium is by making a potassium
I have the broth, but it's not a lot of milligrams. When you need 4,700 milligrams, it's a very small amount.
Right.
It's really a tiny amount.
I imagine then you might have to get a prescription because, in the supplement form we can only give 99 milligrams. So you might have to get a prescription. And
I did, but then my friend made me scared to take it. She said, you can't take that much potassium because you have to be monitoring.
Well, Charlotte, you're a nurse, you can follow it with blood tests and do your own experiment. But if your magnesium is still low, do you think you should probably get a 24-hour urine test to see if you're a magnesium waster?
Oh, okay. I'm not a nurse.
We're at the
but
top
I love
of
you,
the
Dr.
show.
D.
Thank you, Charlotte. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Good. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Great show.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Jenny.
Jenny.
Good show, Jenny. Goodbye.
Thanks, Bill.
AchieveRadio.com. Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.